Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 2021 Martin Luther King Jr. Day Virtual Celebration. My name is Mandy Smith, and I'm the Director of Education here at the Rock Hall, which means that it's my job to talk about, research, write about, teach about, and perform the greatest music of all time every single day. One of the things that I am most proud about is our institutional commitment to diversity and to education about social justice through the power of rock and roll. The Rock Hall celebrates a powerful art form that challenges the status quo and shapes important social change. Rock and roll and the civil rights movement both gained momentum at the same time in the 1950s, and popular music has been a key part of the fight for equality ever since. Today, in honor of Dr. King, we're going to see some inspiring live performances from previous Rock Hall induction ceremonies and our other programs. Here's just a sneak peek at some of the performances that we'll see.
I'll have you carry on, oh, it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on.
We'll also see some new performances by local Cleveland groups right here in our own community. We'll hear from our curatorial and library staff as well about our It's Been Said All Along, Rage, Hope, and Empowerment exhibit. Today's show features some highlights from our website's Rock Hall EDU platform, where teachers, parents, and guardians can access free materials for teaching and engaging their students. Rock Hall EDU contains Rock Hall exclusive content, everything from lesson plans and activities to videos and playlists created by our education team right here at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You can find out more at rockhall.com/education. You can also sign up for your free account today. We even curated a collection of materials to celebrate Dr. King's legacy. In the collection, you can find activities for kids of all ages, where they can create their own protest sign or think deeply about what their dream is for a better future. I'd like to take a moment to thank the John P. Murphy Foundation because they made this program possible. Our MLK Day Virtual Celebration is a part of the Rock the Block Community Days, presented by the John P. Murphy Foundation. You can look forward to other community engagement days that provide impactful educational programming through increased collaboration with our community partners. Other 2021 Rock the Block Community Days will include Rock and Resilience and Fam Jam, and we'll announce details about those programs as soon as they're available. In July 2020, the Rock Hall opened our exhibit, It's Been Said All Along, Voices of Rage, Hope, and Empowerment, which looks at how Black artists have been using music to respond to racism, to fight for equal rights, and to promote social justice throughout the entire history of rock and roll. You can check out our free virtual exhibit for It's Been Said All Along at rockhall.com and our education materials for the exhibit at rockhall.com/education. Let's check out this video introduction to the virtual exhibit.
Hey, we're in the middle of a revolution. Because I see the face of things to come. Yes, I do.
Music and visual artists have created art as a response to unspeakable tragedy and to promote social justice for decades. Beyond the art form, artists have fought for equal rights and opportunity. The message is clear. Musical artists have channeled the power of rock and roll to respond to racism all along.
Dr. Martin Luther King was truly a leader in every sense of the word during the civil rights movement. And like all strong leaders, he knew it was important to empower the oppressed, because once people feel like they have the strength, confidence, and self-determination to make their lives better, there's simply nothing that they can't achieve. Black musicians in the U.S. worked right alongside civil rights leaders and harnessed the message of music to empower. When we began our Rock Hall Honors program in 2019, we could think of no better artist to honor than Mavis Staples, whose deep, powerful voice was a vehicle for empowerment for the audiences around the world in gospel churches, civil rights marches, and on festival stages. Here is Mavis Staples performing the Staples Singers' 1973 message song, "If You're Ready, Come Go With Me," at the inaugural Rock Hall Honors event in 2019.
Are you ready? That doesn't sound like it. Cleveland! Are you ready? Put your hands together and welcome to the stage, Mavis Staples!
If you're ready, well now, if you're ready now, yeah, if you're ready, come on and go with me. Well, no hatred,
Come go with me,
will be tolerated.
come go with me,
Peace and love, yes,
come go with me,
flow between the razors.
come go with me.
Love is the only transportation to where there's total communication. If you, yeah, get ready, y'all.
Come go with me,
Think you're able?
come go with me,
Take me by my hand now.
come go with me,
No disaster, no, will ever enter there.
come go with me,
No wars, no war will ever be declared.
come go with me,
No economical exploitation, no political Get ready, y'all.
come go with me,
Think you're able?
come go with me,
Come on, follow me.
come go with me,
Oh, Whoa, genocide.
come go with me,
Get ready, y'all.
come go with me,
Troublemaker, or you, better get ready now.
come go with me,
Liars,
come go with me,
I'm just waiting on you.
come go,
Hey, backstabbers here.
come go,
Yeah, come on and go with me.
come go,
See y'all, I'm just moving on.
Well, I don't know about you all at home, but I am definitely ready to come and go with Mavis Staples. What a fitting introduction for a day honoring the legacy of Dr. King. She has marched and sang alongside of him, and her family's message songs were directly inspired by his leadership. Up next, we have our first local Cleveland group, Mourning, a Blkstar. They're a band that has performed at the Rock Hall several times, and they describe themselves in a really interesting way. They are a multi-generational, gender and genre non-conforming amalgam of Black culture, dedicated to servicing the stories and songs of the apocalyptic diaspora. Let's check them out.
Hello, my name is Kyle Kidd. I'm so excited to invite you to this year's Martin Luther King Day celebration. I am one of 3 lead vocalists in the band Mourning, a Blkstar. Mourning, a Blkstar was founded right here in Cleveland, Ohio in 2015, the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Mourning, a Blkstar is a band that prides ourselves on speaking for those who feel like they don't have a voice. Like Martin Luther King, we strive to find words that speak to those stories that sometimes go unheard. Martin Luther King lived a life that was rooted in kindness, giving, and overall love. I want to invite you all to open your hearts today and enjoy this beautiful presentation that speaks to his life and the civil rights movement. Thank you, and all the love to each of you, and happy Martin Luther King Day. I refuse to dig holes till I still.
Mourning a Blkstar really excites me, both because of the messages they're putting in their music, but also because of their ability to stand so firmly in so many traditions, soul, funk, and jazz, while creating something entirely new. In 2007, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five became the first hip-hop artists ever inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Their 1982 song, The Message, spoke openly and honestly about the harsh socioeconomic conditions in the South Bronx that in many ways led to the inception of hip-hop music and culture. Here's Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five performing that hip-hop classic during their 2007 induction.
Hey, yo, I just like to send this one out to my man, 1/5 of the Fury, my man, fallen soldier, Keith Cowboy. He's not here with us in the physical, but he's definitely here with us in the spirit. All right? I'm gonna count you in, Flash. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Rapping like hell, make it sound like heaven. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on, Flash, come and get some. Lightning can't strike in the same place twice. Jail plays the game. Shame for life. Stay not that you rank the top 50. Don't mention my name. I had you open before crack cocaine, bro, man. Before the fever, before Missy's first misdemeanor, before runs, first pair of Adidas got geared.
Yo, what's going on, man? Yo, what happened? You're not supposed to be there. Yo, why don't push me? You know why? Why? Because I'm close to the edge, man. Oh, put your hands up. Now everybody scream! Everybody wave your hand from side to side like this here. Side to side. Side to side. You like to thank the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for having us in here. Now somebody say hey! Say ho! Now everybody scream! It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes you wonder how I keep them going under. Let's get ready to slide, though. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes you wonder. Slide this way, come on, y'all. Slide, 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 slide. This way. Slide. Hey, now everybody scream! We got broken glass everywhere. People pissing on the stage, you know they just don't. I can't take the smell, can't take the noise. Got no money to move out, I guess I got no choice. We get rats in the front room, roaches in the back, junkies in the alley with a baseball bat. Tried to get away, but I couldn't get far. Cause a man walked to the people say, come on. Yo, don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes you wonder how I keep them going under. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes you wonder how I keep them going under.
Yeah. Flash, Timo, B.
Yo, kid.
Let's go.
Us kids need to stick together, kid.
Hey, come on over here, man. Grandmaster,
Mr. Roberts, Mr. Randon, you're one of our favorites.
Check this out, y'all. This is the original Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. And thank you. And we would definitely like to thank the hip-hop community for getting us in. We would like to thank Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for getting us in. And we just want y'all to know, we're gonna try to do some great things, our group collectively, after this. Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5 Live, y'all.
Thank you, everyone. Drive safe.
Well, that certainly turned up the volume and the energy a bit. We actually feature The Message in one of our on-site Rock in the Schools field trip programs, where we teach about early hip-hop music and culture. Let's take a look at one of our assets from our online Rock Hall EDU platform. A presentation about Aretha Franklin and how her song Respect resonated in the 1960s and 70s and empowered people fighting for both civil rights and women's rights.
A powerful musical voice that wove civil rights messages into her music was the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin was born and raised in Detroit and grew up singing and playing piano in her father's church, with her father being the pastor C.L. Franklin at Detroit's New Bethel Baptist Church. At age 18, Aretha Franklin signed a contract with Columbia Records, but her career really took off with Atlantic Records in 1966. Her album, I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You, and the connected single, Respect, became very successful and reached #1 on both the pop and R&B charts in 1967. Aretha Franklin's version of Respect exemplifies a faster, upbeat anthem where her confident voice demands respect. She even spells out what she expects, and her backup singers agree with her in their vocal echoes. The horn section and accenting drums bring even more energy to this charismatic song. This version contrasts the original 1965 version by Otis Redding. His version is softer and more intimate, like he is talking to a sweetheart. While Redding's ballad is still a call for respect, it was Franklin's version that was interpreted by not only the civil rights movement for racial equality, but also by the women's liberation movement for respect and equality between genders. Part of this is Aretha Franklin herself. Her identity as an African-American woman matters when interpreting this song and her performance. The timing of this song is noteworthy as well. Aretha Franklin's Respect is released 3 years after the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and 2 years after the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Why would a song about respect resonate so intensely with audiences after such major legislative victories for the civil rights movement? In many ways, laws are the easy thing to change compared to changing attitudes and behaviors. Aretha Franklin never stood in front of a podium and gave a speech like a politician, but she knew that music was and is a powerful way to deliver information. She knew that there was more work to be done for equality, and her call for respect, even just a little bit, could go a long way.
For that resource and more, check out our free Rock Hall EDU platform at rockhall.com/education. Let's check out the Queen of Soul herself performing another song of empowerment from the 1996 musical Ragtime. Here's Franklin singing Make Them Hear You at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 25th anniversary concert in 2009.
I want to dedicate this next song to those of you who don't feel like you're getting any respect and you're having a hard time expressing yourself and getting your point across. This is dedicated to you. It comes from the production Ragtime. Go out and tell the story, let it echo far and wide, and make them hear you, make them hear you. How justice was our battle and how justice was denied. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And say to those who would blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles that are more than black and white. Yes, I could not lay down my sword when justice was my right. Oh, make them hear you. Go out and tell the story to your daughters and your sons and make them hear you. You got to make them hear you. justice be denied. A man, righteous man, yes, make them hear you. And when they hear you, I'll be with you. I'll be with you.
Can anyone say best voice ever? I mean, I could listen to her sing all day long, as I'm sure all of you at home could as well. I can't think of anything more appropriate to end our chapter on empowerment than Aretha Franklin's voice. Its soulful, powerful, and commanding nature made people feel confident to take action. Let's hear from the head curator on our It's Been Said All Along exhibit, Nwaka Onwusa. We sat down with her to talk about the creation of the exhibit and how it relates to the theme of the day. Here's what she had to say.
So one of my most favorite things about being the Vice President and Chief Curator at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the access to our amazing archives and having access to so many stories, so many artists, and having an opportunity to deliver those stories and narratives, or those narratives, to our public audience. You know, this is not just content that we deliver here to the state of Ohio. This is a global institution, and I love that our stories have such a vast reach and can impact so many people at one given moment, whether it's in person when the museum is open outside of a pandemic, or when we are closed during a pandemic. I love the impact that music has, and the fact that we can reach people in that way really inspires me on a daily basis, and I'm honored that I have the opportunity to do that for so many others. To be a storyteller, it's a role, it's a task that I don't take lightly. I get emotional about it all the time. I feel like, you know, the role of a curator or an archivist, a librarian, an educator is really to be taking and carrying that baton and writing the script for the next generation. We're the ones doing that. We see history unfolding every single day. All right, so in coming up with this exhibit, I was inspired by the movement of our civil rights movement of 2020. There were so many events, so many murders, killings, terrorism against Black bodies, people of color, regardless, male or female. And being a curator, you know, it's my job. We talked about storytelling. In Nina Simone's quote, in Nina Simone's words, and so many other artists who have used their musical platforms, I felt, and we took this personally, that it is our duty to respond to what's happening in our society. And it was a question like, what can we do as an institution? We can't just put up a black square on Instagram and call it a day. We have to do more. More is required from us. And even the things that you see behind me, we pulled from our internal and permanent collection to cull together these stories that we've told for years, over our 25 plus years as an institution, in various ways. But this was a moment that was too critical to get this message out of hope, acknowledging rage, and talking about being empowered. And it was a personal struggle that I had to deal with, coming up with the title itself was a struggle and a moment that I had to deal with emotionally. I felt rage, then I felt hope, and then I felt empowered when we finally mounted this exhibit. And you know, when you come in, it's not a huge, 5,000 square foot exhibit, although it can be, because the timeline of this message is so deep and so deeply rooted in our heritage as Americans and just as human beings. But what we wanted to do was make an immediate impact and not waste time, because the music does not stop. The music does not pause, and the messages in the music continue to reverberate and encourage. It's been said all along, we've been saying this, it's been said, but these voices of rage, hope, and empowerment definitely have something to say during this time. And I'm honored that we're acknowledging Black voices that have put their lives, their careers, their platforms on the line to convey messages of hope, convey messages of rage. Sit in your rage. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be upset. These things are upsetting. Murder is not okay. Lynchings are not okay. Burning crosses are not okay. So for these artists to address these things, from a Ray Charles giving up his salary because he didn't want to play to a segregated audience. These are the kinds of rebels. These are the kind of rock and rollers we wanted to celebrate within this exhibit. And we had the stories to tell. Let's do it. So that was my motivation for putting this exhibit together. And I'm just so honored that it sits right at the entrance. Like, let's still tell this story right now. First things first. We stand for equity. We stand for justice. We stand for a better tomorrow. Because of Martin Luther King and his unfortunate assassination on April 4th, Stevie Wonder was inspired by that, and as so many Americans did, but he didn't take it just there by feeling this rage, feeling this frustration, and left it. He revisited this in 1980 when he was creating his record, Hotter Than July. And it touched on so many social and civic issues in that album. The last song on that album is called Happy Birthday. And for those who don't know, that song is dedicated to Dr. Martin Luther King. And because of that song, he lobbied for the holiday to even be acknowledged and celebrated. It was finally written into law in 1983 by Ronald Reagan, and that was a struggle within itself. But in 1981, he took that album to, instead of just promoting the album singularly, just to promote it for his own personal gain, he took to the streets, gathered other celebrities, other musicians, other politicians, the Black Caucus, to advocate for Dr. Martin Luther King Day to be celebrated, for this man to be honored, one of the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winning at 35, to be honored by this country. It took up until 2000 for the last state to actually even acknowledge Martin Luther King Day, which tells you that this fight is still ongoing for civil rights. But it was Stevie Wonder and Gil Scott-Heron who actually headlined for a 10-week tour to advocate and promote having MLK Day be celebrated. So that just shows you the power of music, the power of rock and roll music, to create law, to create new legislation for justice, for equality. And without Stevie Wonder, it was supposed to be him and Bob Marley to tour, but Bob Marley was, battling cancer at that time. But the fact that he had Gil Scott-Heron join him on this tour to advocate for this holiday, we wouldn't even have MLK Day in the same manner that we do. So a huge thanks to inductee Stevie Wonder for making this day possible, for putting your life on the line, for the many thousands of Americans who marched back in January on Martin Luther King's birthday in 1981 in Washington, D.C. In the winter. If you look back at those photos, people are marching in the snow, in the rain, for justice. That's why this day is so important. I'm so honored that these points are highlighted within It's Been Said All Along. To showcase this exhibit on Martin Luther King Day 2021 means something so much grander, I think, for me, for this community, for the city of Cleveland, for the state of Ohio, for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame during this time with, you know, the events that we've seen in the past 10 months, in the last week. It's so critical to celebrate messages of hope during this time, and I am ecstatic that this message is being celebrated and amplified and lifted up truly during a moment when we really need it the most. Some of the things that I love in this exhibit not only reach back to the past, but it definitely touches on moments that are so critical and poignant right now. So yes, we can tell you know, a retrospective story about the civil rights movement, but it is so current and unfortunately so timely right now with the things that we're dealing with. But I'm honored that it's happening right now. It's such a raw exhibit, and the messages within it are definitely ones that inspire hope, and that's what we need to propel this new generation forward. You know, it's a beautiful thing that this day, this holiday, Martin Luther King Day, is dedicated to, you know, service. And what I would love for more citizens to engage in this year, and not just for the day, but every single day, is just practicing love. That is a service. To me, and whatever you do, I think a level of love and empathy is required. That was the message of Dr. Martin Luther King. And whatever you find yourself doing, whether it is, you know, whether it's finding yourself recycling and cleaning up your community, whether it is reaching out to young folks and inspiring them through music or education or just lending a hand, do it with love.
I've got to say, this is one of my favorite exhibits that we have ever done at the Rock Hall, and it's great to hear Nwaka talk about its creation. Now on to our second theme of the exhibit, rage. Black artists throughout the history of rock and roll have channeled their rage into their art to call out injustice. It might seem strange to discuss rage on a day celebrating Martin Luther King and his legacy, but Dr. King struggled with that emotion just like everyone. He knew that he had to help African Americans figure out what to do with their anger. At the first meeting of the Montgomery Improvement Association, which was an organization that helped lead and organize the Montgomery bus boycott in the mid-1950s, King gave a speech, and he knew that speech would shape and motivate the community response to Rosa Parks' refusal to give up her seat on a bus to a white person just days earlier. When reflecting on that speech years later, King wrote, "How could I make a speech that would be militant enough to keep my people aroused to positive action, and yet moderate enough to keep this fervor within controllable and Christian bounds? I knew that many of the Negro people were victims of bitterness that could easily rise to flood proportions. What could I say to keep them courageous and prepared for positive action, and yet devoid of hate and resentment? Could the militant and the moderate be combined into a single speech?" Of course, the answer to King's question was an emphatic yes, and his speech helped motivate the Montgomery community to boycott their public transit system, which in turn led to the Supreme Court declaring bus segregation to be unconstitutional. Let's turn to "Livin' for the City," a track that Stevie Wonder recorded every single instrument for on his 1973 album, Inner Visions. The song tells an all-too-familiar tale in which a young black man grows up in Mississippi, moves to New York City in the Second Great Migration, gets profiled and arrested for drug charges by police, and becomes a part of the prison system. Let's watch Wonder perform "Livin' for the City," his song about systemic racism faced by young black men, at the Rock Hall's 25th anniversary concert in 2009.
We're gonna sing this song together. Are you ready? Here we go. A boy is born in Hard Time, Mississippi. Come on, hit it.
Just love how they speed it up there at the end. Stevie Wonder knew that nothing made people listen to a song's message like a deep groove. Black artists continue to channel their rage into meaningful artistic performances today. Let's check out local group, the Diamond Company of Buckout, Cleveland, a dance company dedicated to utilizing dance to bridge the gap between Northeast Ohio youth and higher education at historically Black colleges and universities, while increasing awareness of obtainable dance careers. Here is their concept video, Freedom.
We're the Diamond Co. of Buckout, Cleveland, and this is Freedom. Thank you, Dr. King, for your contribution to freedom for all of mankind.
And thank you, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Woo!
Tears going fall away, fall away. Oh, the last 10 burning days. Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose, yeah. Freedom, freedom, where are you? 'Cause I need freedom too. I break chains all by myself. Won't let my freedom rot in hell. Hey.
This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping now. This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping up. I gotta carry him. I can't breathe.
Pinhead dancing, everybody gone bad. Situation, aggravation, everybody allegation. In the suit, on the loose, everybody gone. Bang, bang, shot dead, everybody gone bad. All I wanna say is that they don't really care about us.
DJ Big,
BT, you can never break me. Will be, drill me, you can never kill me. Ooh, me, everybody do me. All I wanna say is that they don't really care about us.
Lost my life, I had to fight of it. Lost my life.
Be alright. Don't be alright. Be alright.
Well, I would say that after seeing that video, they are doing a great job teaching those young dancers. What a powerful performance. Rage can be an expression of a desire for basic rights and human dignities, such as the ability to walk down the street unafraid of being harassed just because of the color of your skin. For decades, Nina Simone's unapologetic rage and accusatory voice sang about what it meant to be young, gifted, and black in an unjust world. At Simone's induction in 2018, The Roots backed up singer Andra Day and delivered a moving performance of I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free in honor of the late singer-songwriter. Let's check it out.
Please welcome Andra Day and The Roots.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear for the whole round world to hear. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know how it feels to be me. Then you'd see and agree that every man should be free.
really have goosebumps right now, just like I did when I was lucky enough to see the dress rehearsal of this song while working with a group of students 3 years ago. What an amazing rendition of that song. But the kings of turning rage into action probably have to be Public Enemy, a hip-hop group whose wall of noise production techniques provided the in-your-face soundtrack for them to layer a black nationalist message over top. In early 2019, hip-hop educator and activist Jahi talked with Public Enemy's Chuck D about his handwritten lyrics to the group's 1989 song, Fight the Power, right here at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Let's hear what they had to say in this Rock Hall EDU video.
These are true art. If facts.
That's right. Art in caps.
Right. And facts. Right.
Art and facts.
Right.
We have just titled your new, this is called Art and Facts. Man, we got some really, really dope archives. Shout out to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Rock Hall EDU. For educators, this is a great way for you to be able to understand some of the things that have happened inside of our culture, because it's important to preserve and protect our culture. I don't know, it may look familiar to you. It is some lyrics. It's 1989.
Yeah.
Fight the Power.
Fight the Power. I'm not allowed to touch it twice. but actually, is this the original? You know how I write. I write and it's all over the place. Then I take and compile it into something I could read when I record. This is the final stage of the writing. No, I didn't say
Where were you when you
actually? This is compiled from the original scraps that was actually written on the plane on tour in 1988. This is the final compiling that says, okay, now you're gonna go in the studio and read the lyrics and perform it on the mic. And it's very important that I print it perfectly and write it perfectly. I went to high school for architecture and drafting stuff like that. So I do have pretty good handwriting, but I have to have good handwriting to read it, because if I don't write it correctly, I'm down to flub it.
Right. Well, how did it feel after you got with Spike and then you realized that Fight the Power not only became a incredible song, and to me, I would consider 1989 is the zenith of the first golden age of hip hop. That, in my opinion, that 1989. But then you got Spike Lee Do the Right Thing, and now your song is with Radio Raheem throughout the entire film.
Well, one thing that made it a different type of thing than just recording and trying to find an anchored home for your writing is that it was a commission work. And so as early as maybe a year before, we sat down and had lunch with Spike in Soho in Manhattan, and he said, I need an anthem. So when he said I need an anthem, that made my wheels turn. Musically, we could figure out what fits along the way, but words, what make a rap record, a rap song. So we were commissioned to come through with this song that reflected what his movie was about. Hip hop was understood at a point where we could figure out, what is anthemic. And what was needed and necessary at that time.
Right.
And we didn't have to go outside our city to see, the certain frictions that were going on in society.
Real talk.
New York had a big microscope on the society at that time. So you had to pay attention to news. You had to pay attention to the transition of events. And you had to be on top of things like that, not just on top of the streets and slang, because it wasn't about making things so it could hit the streets. It was
because there's an intelligence that's in Fight the Power. There's definitely, it's not just looking for street music.
No, we had to nail the theme of the anthem.
Yeah, and I think the anthem is important because anthems have the ability to stand the test of time. So here we are in 2020 talking about a song in 1989 that I saw with my own eyes. 10-year-olds and 60-year-olds still being able to sing and have a sense of, I think Fight the Power, the phrase has become personal for a lot of people that, some people are fighting the power of being discriminated against. Some people are fighting the power against, gender or economic inequality. So Fight the Power is taking on a personal meaning.
to fight the power, fight the power. Let me hear you say, fight the power. Y'all got to fight the power, fight the power. Let me hear you say, fight the power. You got to fight the power, fight the power. Let me hear you say, fight the power. Yeah, we got to fight the power.
Culture reflects people. Rock and roll does it best, especially in the modern days of counting 100 years back, where it's well documented in the things that they call records. Hip-hop comes from the uses of records, and it's the voiceover records. Hip-hop is actually a making of many different sounds, and many different textures, and many different voices and sounds, because you cannot separate the people and the history from what rock and roll is.
Teachers, parents, and guardians, that video and a second one of Jahi and Shakti talking about hip-hop fashion is available free along with other Rock Hall educational materials at rockhall.com/education. Now that we know the story behind the song, let's watch Public Enemy perform Fight the Power at the 2013 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
Hit me! Come on, y'all! Go, 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 go,
Listen if you listen, y'all. Swinging while I'm singing. Give it while you get it. Know why I know it. While the black band sweat. And the rhythm I'm rolling. Got to give us what we want. Got to give us what we need. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We're going to fight the power of death. Let me hear you say. Y'all got to fight the power. Fight the power. Let me hear you say. Y'all got to fight the power. Fight the power. Let me hear you say. You got to fight the power. Fight the power. Let me hear you say. Yeah, we got to fight the power. And the rhythm designed to pass will count to that note. Designed to fill your mind. That is a real line. The problem of we gotta from the hardest and start a work of art to revolutionize, make a change, not the strain. We all the same, no, we're not the same, cause we don't know the game. What we need is awareness. We can't get careless, y'all. You said what is it? Mama love it. Let's get down to business. Spit us up the business. Big dance. Well, bless the show. Hey. You never don't know what to know. Yeah, I make everybody see. And on the two. Fight the power, can't beat. Let me you say. Fight the power. Fight the power. Let me you say. Fight the power. You got to fight the what? Fight the power. Let me you say. Fight the power. Y'all got to fight the power. Fight the power. Let me you say. Fight the power. Yeah. We got to fight the power that we come on, go, 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 go. Let me hear you say, you got to fight the power, fight the power. Let me hear you say, fight the power. We got to fight the power that we. Elvis was a hero the most, but he never meant shit to me. You see, straight up racist and sucker was simply plain. Motherfucking me, John Wayne. Was I'm black and I'm proud, I'm ready, I'm hyper, I'm air. Most of my heroes on the piano stand. Said, boy, look like you looking by nothing but records for 400 years and you check. Don't worry, D.I. Was the #1 champ. Give him a sense like a Sunday right here. Get it. Let's get this party started right. Right on, come on. What we got to say? How to the people know the lane. Let everybody see. And on the two. Fight the power. Let me you say. Fight the power. Y'all got to fight the power. Fight the power. Let me you say. Fight the power. You got to fight the power. Fight the power. Let me hear you say. Fight the power. Y'all got to fight the power. Fight the power. Let me hear you say. Fight the power. Hey, we got to fight the powers that be. Yeah. We gotta fight the power that be. Public Enemy, 2013, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Oh man, Public Enemy embodied the rage of the Black experience in America in a way that shocked and shook up audiences of the time. Before we get to our final theme of hope, check out this video where our collections specialist, Sule Holder, spoke about library and archives assets related to the It's Been Said All Along exhibit.
One of the things I do enjoy the most is being able to, have a physical relationship with certain artifacts that come into the museum and the library and archives. It gives me almost a personal connection to the artist or the song or even that instrument. So in a sense, it's almost like an extension of the artist. It is a connection, and I think it sort of gives you insight to the process, and I guess sort of the foundation of how an artist works and the music that they produce. So I think with the artifacts and being able to hold it, you understand, you almost put yourself in that artist's shoes, literally sometimes in that artist's shoes. We have, as you can see from the costumes back here. So it has that ability for you to really make that connection. And it's something, because a lot of people do not have access to these artifacts up close, not being an exhibit, being able to be behind the scenes. It's almost like being in a recording studio. You're working the mixing board in a sense in Dr. Dre's studio or something like that. So it gives you that process, that sort of foundation of like how things are created. It's all, it starts with a guitar chord a lot of times, or a piano key or a drum snare. So for you to have that, you almost are part of, you almost feel part of that creation process. That's pretty awesome. I think one of the privileges, I guess, of being a storyteller is being able to shape, in a sense, you get to shape a narrative or shape a story or control the perspective almost of the audience and of the patrons and of the fans, whether it's online or remotely or here in the physical museum. It's almost like a choose your own adventure for me in that kind of sense, in that you have a way to scope and create a story. And lots of times maybe it's a story that needs to be told or hasn't been told or isn't told enough. So I think, I know one of the aspects I love about being a storyteller is being able to tell new stories and stories that have been forgotten, stories about people who have been forgotten. There's so many inductees, and every inductee has an amazing story in order for you to be inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I like definitely being able to find those hidden stories under the layers from some of the artists who sometimes don't get all the recognition that we see publicly all the time. So I think being able to, really dig down and find something or a nugget of information, and it could just grow into this whole story. Even the artifacts, it's not always just about a piano, it's about the story of the piano and how it got donated, and if there's a scuff on it, what does that represent? So I think the artifacts give you a way to tell a story, and that's one of the best things about working at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Rage, hope, empowerment. Those are sort of the stages, in a sense, of almost change or revolution. I don't know how you could make change in society or a cultural shift without having some form of rage, hope, and empowerment. It's almost and like I said, it's almost a process. Steps 1, 2, 3. That is where it all starts. You are enraged about something, about a certain political system or police system or whatever system there is in place. And it becomes, well, why is this going on? I don't agree with this. I'm enraged. Now let me take action. And I know what I do not like. I'm enraged. I see an end vision of what I do want. And now we just need to find action in a way to get there. So I think the themes are very relevant, especially today. Well, one of the highlights of the It's Been Said All Along exhibit, in my opinion, my humble opinion, is the lyrics for Public Enemy's Fight the Power. And I was around 9, 10 when Fight the Power came out. I remember the summer I remember Do the Right Thing. I went to see that movie with my family back in Boston. And, you know, just the start of that song and how it just starts, and you hear this kick drum and like this James Brown sample, and it just takes you, and, you know, the visuals and the militancy and, you know, just everything, you know, 1989, another summer, you know, Sound of the Funky Drummer. And it just starts from there, and this music is just taking you along on this journey. And then, you know, the chorus comes out, fight the power. We just got to fight the power that be. And it's an amazing protest song. It's probably one of the most relevant protest songs since maybe a Marvin Gaye piece, maybe since like What's Going On, or a Redemption song, Bob Marley. We have his hat here as well. So that's another piece that could tie in as well. But yeah, just the lyrics, and especially if you don't know, the way that Chuck D writes his lyrics is so complex. And it is such a complex way that he just writes his lyrics, and the way he pieces together a song with the Bomb Squad, his production team. And the way that he writes those lyrics, you know, they become slogans in a sense. Fight the Power is a slogan, man, for protest and for oppression. Words create worlds, and they do say the pen is mightier than the sword. And Fight the Power, those lyrics, just looking at those, it could destroy anything. If you were alive here today, Dr. King would definitely endorse Fight the Power. If Dr. King could have a playlist, like, I think Fight the Power would be definitely on Dr. King's playlist. I mean, if Fight the Power came out during the March on Washington, it would have been it would have been vocalized and sung by the masses as well. That's how I believe it. And to have it there, especially on MLK Day, it's just his legacy. You know, Chuck D, you know, a child of the '60s. He grew up in the civil rights era. He probably, I'm sure he saw the March on Washington on TV or something. So he's a direct, you know, a lot of Dr. King's teachings you can find in Chuck D and Public Enemy's music. I think people are sometimes confused by the militancy of their approach, but a lot of it's nonviolent. You know, it's Fight the Power almost with nonviolence. You know, that's what Dr. King did. He fought the power through nonviolence. I just think we just really need to be more respectful of each other. I mean, if respect was a service, that's what I would want. I mean, I just think a lot of the issues we're having today in society, we can't agree on everything. I get it. We can't agree on who the best rock and roll guitarist is. So we can't agree on everything, but I could still respect your opinion. And I could do that in a way that isn't insulting to you or the things that you believe in. Just have respect for each other. I mean, if I could put it in a box and say, hey, this is respect in a box, here it is, I wish I could do that. I mean, you can't, you know, but yeah, just respect from society and each other. I mean, that is what Dr. King wanted. I mean, it's okay to disagree. He told you that. You know, you don't have to agree with everything I say, but just respect it and don't insult it or me. And yeah, we just need to get a little bit more respect back for ourselves, even as a society, for ourselves and each other.
I don't think I've ever talked to Sule and not learned something fascinating about our collection. We wanted to save the hope theme for last, because hope most directly embodies the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., perhaps more than any other theme. After all, his most remembered and cherished speech was "I Have a Dream," famously delivered at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. He so eloquently and passionately spoke about his hopes for America's future in our nation's capital. To kick off our theme of how musicians have used hope to speak to the Black experience in America, let's turn to the OJs. Their song "Love Train" was written by fellow Rock Hall inductees Kenneth Gamble and Leon Huff, whose songs often expressed the sentiment of Black pride. Let's take a look at the OJs performing "Love Train" at the 2005 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Don't you want to ride this love train? Yes, I do. And now that we're all dancing, let's see another local favorite. The choir from the Olivet Institutional Baptist Church right here in Cleveland. Historically, Olivet has had a celebrated tradition of activism through its engagement and advocacy in addressing some of the significant social causes of the day, including civil rights, social justice, and public health. MLK himself even preached from their pulpit. Let's check out their performance.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. I am Dr. Damon Dandridge, the Minister of Worship and Arts at the Olivet Institutional Baptist Church, where the Reverend Dr. Jawaza Kareem Colvin is our pastor. On this afternoon, 3 of our singers from our church will bring to you selections that are a part of the African American tradition. You will hear a spiritual, an African American hymn, and a sacred jazz piece. And we hope that you would enjoy this as we celebrate the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who actually spoke in the pulpit of Olivet Institutional Baptist Church, as we honor him and honor the tradition of the African American sacred music.
gospel feast, that promised land where all is peace. Oh, deep river,
is salvation. Drink of the blood, held the body. Lord, I have seen with my eyes, seen with my heart. I fell on my knees down at the altar. I bow down my head, whispered a prayer. Have mercy, Lord. I am not worthy. I believe, yes, I believe. Now I am sure. Lord, I have heard of thy kingdom. Lord, I have heard of thy promise. Looked at thy birth, cried on Calvary. Lord, I have heard. Lord, I have heard. Lord, I have heard. I fell on my knees down at the altar. I bow down my head, whispered a prayer. Have mercy, Lord. I am not worthy. I believe, yes, I believe. Now I am sure.
Lord, dear Lord of love, God Almighty, God above, please look down and see my people through. Lord, dear Lord of love, God Almighty, God above, please look down and see my people through. I believe the sun and moon will shine up in the sky. I don't mind the gray skies, 'cause they're just clouds passing by. and comfort to every troubled mind. Come Sunday, oh, come Sunday, that's the day. Often we'll feel weary, but He knows our every care. Go to Him in the secret, He will hear your every prayer. Lilies of the valley, they neither toil nor spin, and the flowers bloom and springtime birds will sing, and often we'll feel weary, but He knows our every care. Go to God in the secret, He will hear your every prayer. Up from dawn to sunset, men work hard all the day. Come Sunday, oh, come Sunday, that's the
The first time I saw Olivet at the Rock Hall Honors Community event honoring Mavis Staples at the Rock Hall, the hair on my arms stood up. It's nice to know that some things haven't changed. When Bill Withers was inducted into the Rock Hall in 2015, it had been 30 years since he largely retired from his music career. The Rock Hall had planned tributes from John Legend and Stevie Wonder, who performed Withers' 1972 classic, Lean on Me. But the so-called tribute performance turned into Withers' final public performance when Legend pulled him on stage to sing. Let's watch this historic moment in rock and roll.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrows, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have pain, you need to borrow, for no one can feel those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand,
just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, right up the road, I'll share your load. If you just call me, come on everybody, call me. If you need a friend, call me, call me, call me. Oh baby, just call me. If you need a friend, all you got to do is, yeah, call me. All you got to do is, all you got to do is, all you got to do is, call me. Come on now, call me. One more time now, call me. Yeah, we love you, Bill. We love you, Bill Withers. Yes, sir.
I don't know that I have ever watched that performance with dry eyes. There have been so many songs throughout the history of rock and roll that use hope to speak to the African American experience. But there's no song that does it better than Sam Cooke's 1964 civil rights anthem, A Change Is Gonna Come. For our final Rock Hall EDU video, let's watch soul legend Solomon Burke discuss the impact and meaning of Cooke's classic song.
Well, for me, it wasn't a crossover. For me, it wasn't a change. It was just the idea of the rhythms changed. Maybe the recording companies changed, and the lyrics were more expressive about love and what love was. I was always taught that love was the expression of God, and God was love.
I was born by the river, easy, in a little tin, just like the river. I've been running ever since.
Well, you never take a Sam Cooke song. You try to sing a Sam Cooke song. Sam, of course, one of the great masters of all times.
A change is gonna come. Change is gonna come.
That song has always been a part of my life. It's always been a message that so needed. And any chance or any opportunity that I could get to send that song out, I always keep it in my show, in my act, in my performances. And it's a song that reaches the world. When I first performed in Germany, in East Berlin, before it became One Germany, that was a big hit of my concerts, A Change Is Gonna Come. It was a song that I had to sing 2 or 3 times before leaving the stage. So the message has always been there, and God made him a messenger. And what a great message.
People, let me tell you, a change has got to come, yo. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. Listen to me.
I hope you enjoyed all these impactful performances, interviews, and education materials today. Before we see our final performance of Sam Cooke's anthem, I want to remind you to check out rockhall.com for our virtual It's Been Said All Along exhibit, as well as our Rock Hall EDU portal at rockhall.com/education, where you'll find our It's Been Said All Along education collection, our MLK Day collection, and hundreds of other assets to help you teach through the power of rock and roll. A big thanks once again to the John P. Murphy Foundation for making this program possible. And a big thanks to all of you at home, too, for tuning in to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's MLK Day Virtual Celebration. Dr. King himself recognized the potential of rock and roll to unite across racial boundaries. When he was asked to speak at the National Association of TV and Radio Announcers in 1967, just months before his assassination, he said to the DJs in attendance, "In a real sense, you have paved the way for social and political change by creating a powerful cultural bridge between black and white. School integration is much easier now that they share a common music, a common language, and enjoy the same dances. You introduced youth to that music and created the language of soul and promoted the dance, which now sweeps across race, class, and nation." King knew that change was only possible through these types of cultural bridges, as he called them. Rock and roll became a key cultural bridge during the Civil Rights Movement and continues to be one to this day. And though we've certainly seen positive change from the Civil Rights Movement through the Black Power movement and into the Black Lives Matter movement, we still have quite a ways to go. So I hope that you celebrate Dr. King's legacy today and spend some time reflecting on how you can help even more change come. To conclude our MLK Day virtual celebration, here's yet another soul legend, Al Green, performing Sam Cooke's "A Change Is Gonna Come" at the Concert for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1995. Stay safe, everyone, and rock on.
You look good out there, baby. I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Look here. It's been too hard living, and I'm afraid to die. Look here. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, I wish I could come out there where you are, baby. A long time coming, but I know, look at here, a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Look at here. Let me say one more thing. I go to the movie and I go hear somebody keep telling me, oh boy, don't hang around. It's been a long, if anybody know what I'm talking about, let me see you wave your hand. I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. But I've gotta take my time to say this, look. Then I go to my brother, yes sir, and I tell him, I said, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me. He knocks me back down on my change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Look at here. One more time. Look. Then I go to my brother. Somebody take your hand back and forth like this. Everybody. You sitting in the first balcony too. Heavenly place. All over the auditorium tonight. All over the hallelujah. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. That's what I thought. I couldn't last so long. No, I know, baby. Change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.